This is KiwaniTalk. My name is Ray Scaboria. I'll be your host for this evening's program. KiwaniTalk is a public information program brought to you from the facilities of WDHS at Dearborn High School. And we are very pleased to have as our guest today Lori Buschel, who is the Executive Director of First Step. Lori, give us your quick explanation of First Step and a little, and then we'll go into a little background of your own.
No problem. Well, thank you so much for having me, Ray. My name is Lori Buschel. I've been the Executive Director for 4 years now of First Step. First Step, however, has been around since 1978, serving survivors of domestic and sexual violence in Wayne County.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. Yes.
And I'm sure I'm sure there's an evolution to that.
Yes.
The facility, I'm sure there's been a change in facilities over the years.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what, before we get into that, give us a little of your own personal background.
All right.
Where you went to school, where you grew up, and then maybe your earlier jobs, and then we'll get back into First Step.
All right, I will. So I am from Metro Detroit, grew up all over here, born at Wayne Annapolis, which is now Beaumont, which is right by our shelter facility. And then grew up in Plymouth, Novi, and St. Clair Shores. So when I say I'm from southeastern Michigan, I really am from southeastern Michigan. I had an amazing mentor when I was in high school, and many people are familiar with her. Her name was Irma Henderson. She was president of Detroit City Council. But when I came to know her, she was in her 80s, and I would go over and do work for her and organize papers and paint her nails. But she got me really interested in community service and how to support the world and use my skills and talents to support the world. So I ended up going to Washington, D.C. for school and went to American University, where I studied political science, and I also studied women's public policy and political leadership. And I worked for the government out of school, was there for a little bit, decided I did not want to be a bureaucrat and wanted to come back to Michigan and do something here. And so I came back, really set up my roots. I had an amazing experience working at the United Way for Southeastern Michigan. I also worked at the Michigan Women's Foundation, which is now Women Moving Forward. And then I also was at NEW, which is in Ann Arbor, where I did nonprofit consulting and also helped teach new nonprofits how to fundraise. I always had an interest and a passion in wanting to work in a way that allowed me to support a safer community, especially for women and children. That was my passion piece. I had a special opportunity where I worked heavily on doing public policy and education around children who had been trafficked, especially locally. And that really helped me understand so much more about the dynamics of what was happening in the state, but also in the country. I then moved to an organization called Wayne County Safe, which is now known as Avalon, and they do all of the sexual assault kits for Wayne County, and they're part of the backlog that took place in 2009 in helping to serve those survivors.
You were getting all your prerequisites for your current job.
All my prerequisites, yes. And then I was blessed to actually be reached out to when they were seeking a new executive director at First Step. And I was asked if I would consider coming in for an interview, and that started the process of what I feel has been a really great fit for my passions, but also the team of amazing humans I get to work with.
Well, that's great. That background really helps us understand your commitment to your job.
Yes.
You know. Now, could we go back and maybe go back a little bit into the history of First Step,
yes,
and then bring that forward to the current time?
Yeah. So again, First Step was founded in 1978, and originally it just focused on domestic violence, and specifically women who have been affected by domestic violence. They had a very small shelter in an old Canton farmhouse, and they were in that farmhouse for many, many years. And then thanks to the community as a whole, even Kiwanis and everything was all a part of really wrapping their arms around First Step. And so about 15 years ago, we were able to acquire an old UAW training facility in Wayne. And that was renovated and built up, and an addition was added onto it so that we have really a state-of-the-art shelter, which when people hear shelter, they often think of like rooms with just tons of beds. And no, they're suites, they're like little apartments, and so families can really be there and be safe. And so we opened that facility about 15 years ago, and then a few years after that, thanks again to partnerships like Kiwanis and the support of the community, we were able to add on our playground. And our playground, we have been told, is one of the best playgrounds at any facility like ours in the country. And it is, again, was a labor of love of the community and community support. And then in 2019, we opened up what we call the ARC, which is Animals Receiving Kindness, which is actually an on-site animal shelter, so that when families come in to shelter, because they're fleeing violence in their home, they do not have to leave their pets behind and leave them in an unsafe situation. So because of that, we opened our animal shelter in 2019. And so those are our physical programs and kind of the physical changes that have happened at First Step. But we have many other program developments that have happened over the years too.
And of course, you've got clients with you all the time.
Yes.
And how many clients can you support in the facility? I assume this is usually a mother and a number of children, one or more.
Correct. So it depends on the family size. We have 10 suites, and prior to the pandemic, we could put more than one family in a suite. During the pandemic, that has gone down a little bit for the health and safety reasons of the shelter and meeting the needs required by the health department. So typically, we were averaging about 40 to 50 people in our shelter at a given time. And so, that's what we were prior to the pandemic. During the pandemic, that's gone down a little bit, but we also have utilized hoteling to be able to make sure that we've been able to create safe places as soon as possible for people who need it.
It sounds like that if you had 10, that there would be about 25 or so children
yes.
in that area.
Yes, yeah. It is very common that people are coming in with children. Yes.
Yeah. Now, the children of school age, how are they? Do they go to school? Do they go to the local school?
So it depends. So we honor the right of that child to stay within the school district that they are in, if that is safe and what the parent wants. Yeah. If that's not, we have a wonderful partnership with the local schools in Wayne, or we work with the family to make sure those needs are met. Yes.
There's the bus stop right out front and all that.
Yes.
So it's very convenient.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And we have a really supportive relationship with the Wayne Community Schools.
Okay. Yeah. Now the families within the shelter, they have their own food preparation facilities and so on. They have their own kitchen and
yep.
what else?
One of the things that we recognize is that food is very personal, and food is also a part of people's culture. And so the only requirement for our services is that you identify as having been affected by domestic or sexual violence. So that's the only requirement. It doesn't matter gender, age, background, where you live, though we primarily serve Wayne County because of where we're located. And so when people come in, as part of honoring that, we also honor their food culture. So we provide them full access to food. We have refrigerators that are filled with food. Then we also do grocery orders specific to them. And then they have access to a full kitchen. And they also have mini kitchens in their suites. So they can do, they have a small fridge and a sink and a microwave in their suite, and then a full kitchen that also has a safety setup so that the kids can be in the kitchen with them, but they can cook safely.
I see. Is there any eating together in kind of what would you call it, more of a social atmosphere?
Yes, we do have a dining room space that is shared, and so families can use that. We also use it for other activities and children birthday parties and that kind of stuff if they have birthdays, and we have community partners who come in and help with that as well. So there is a shared area and kind of a dining room that's a nice sized dining room for families.
Yeah, with a lot of children in the facility, they're going to make friends with other children.
Yes.
It's just normal.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, they'd want a place to go, maybe that was
Yes.
a communal place
Right.
rather than their own apartment or whatever.
Absolutely, yes. You cannot keep kids from other kids, and you shouldn't.
And of course, the playground is also for the same purpose.
Yes.
And where the animals stay.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sure there are people that become good friends and they go see their pets together, or they go to the playground together. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's psychologically what children need.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
what we all need, actually, but children need it especially.
Yeah, yeah, and speaking of the kids, during the pandemic, we were particularly concerned for them and their well-being because they were homeschooling in shelter.
Yeah.
And so we had to meet those needs and help them have space, and our much of our staff really, rolled up their sleeves and became really involved in ensuring their success through the schooling process and supporting the families through that schooling process so that they would be okay too.
And no matter what you do, some people got COVID anyway.
Correct, but I will say I'm very proud of our team. We had really, really solid standards in what we practice within residential. We partnered very closely with our local health department, who was amazing, and we were able to, yes, we did get some COVID in our shelter. However, it was always isolated, and it never once spread from one family to another, which is a huge success.
That was a challenge.
It was a huge challenge.
That was a challenge.
Yes.
And it took the cooperation of the clients.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess they were very cooperative.
Absolutely. They wanted to protect their health too and know that they were safe. So.
Well, when you have a number of children, it would be easy for them all to get it.
Yes.
You wouldn't have to be.
Yes.
You wouldn't have to slip up very much, and
Yes.
they'd all get it.
Yes.
Well, that's the problem the schools have. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Just a little aside. Aren't we glad that it's off now and it's not as
Yes,
scary
we're able
as
to
it
breathe
was?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's down to something like 1/10 of the peak infection rate.
Yeah.
Which is that helps everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to picture this. You probably had to curtail to some degree the social interaction during COVID, but I guess. Did you have to cut it out completely, or did you? I'm trying to imagine what kinds of things you did to help.
Well, we kind of had to take it in phases, and we took it as we knew information. So in the beginning, when the stay-at-home orders went into place, we really helped support keeping families in their suites. And so what we also realized was making sure that they had what they needed to be okay. Getting food to their room, getting supplies to their room, getting technology to their room, so that people could work. People could look for work. They can continue to move forward in seeking services to help them gain their independence. And so we really, discovered a need and then addressed a need. And that's how we, made our decisions. We also implemented masking in all common areas, and we also implemented 6 feet distance and marked that throughout the shelter. But as we learned more and as we understood more, we were able to lift some of those restrictions and allow for a more normal flow.
And I imagine you help with the personal protection equipment like the masks and so on. Make sure they
and
were
the community
around.
did too. The community donated a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're going to have a short break here in about a minute to do a little Kiwanis commercial. But afterwards, we're going to talk more about current activities.
Okay.
And then we're going to go on and talk a little bit about what you see in the future for First Step.
Thank you.
Okay. Join us after the break. We'll be back here with Lori Kitchen-Buschel, the Executive Director of First Step. See you after the break.
The first time that I heard about First Step was in a very dark moment of my life. I was actually looking for help, and I heard, it's a place called First Step that you can call and they can help you with everything you need. Once I get in First Step, I see all the things that are possible when you feel helpless. You as a single mom in that moment and having babies, and you have you don't know what to do or where to go or what to say or who to call. I was pretty much alone here with my babies. And when I get the first step, I feel like I was adopted. Immediately I walk in, I was like, oh, it's a hope now that I have for me and my boys. So immediately we start making a plan for me to become self-sufficient. And that was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would know about this before. So I feel like I had all these people around me that are just pushing me to move forward. So for me, that was like the best thing that happened in my life in those years. Now I am like on my own. I was so afraid at the beginning, but being now on my own and moving forward with my kids, they went to school. I was able to get after school for my kids so I can work. I mean, I have a completely independent life once again. So if I would not be able to get into first step, I don't think I would be able to even get out of home or being able to rebuild my life again. All these people that are having those hard times at home and they think there is no hope for them, they have to think again and they have to look for those help because they are there. Those help are there. You just have to look for them. Like first step is a place that you have to call. You have to just dig about them. If you feel in a situation at home that you cannot handle it anymore, you have to go out there and find the help and change your life because you don't have to be there. You have to be strong and you can do it. And they have the help to help you to do it. They will help you to move forward. Thank you, First Step.
Hello, we're back at KiwaniTalk. I'm here with Lori Kitchen-Buschel, the Executive Director of First Step. And Lori, it's been great to have you and learn more about First Step. One thing we didn't do, Lori, is we want to put your information on the screen because you're like many 501c3s, you're always looking for donors.
Correct.
And maybe we could catch a few that would send you a check.
Well, thank you. It's www.firststep-mi.org.
Okay. Well, now I'd like to talk about, anything else about the current operations at First Step, and then let's go into what might be coming up in the future for First Step.
Absolutely. So just a few other things to know about First Step is we're not just shelter. We do have several other programs that we offer. We have a child's program that is specific to supporting children who have been affected by domestic and sexual violence. That is outside of our shelter where we also support them. So people can have advocacy and counseling where we support them with their healing journey.
Now, where would you do the counseling? Would you do it at schools or?
No, we do it on site in our facilities.
Oh, in your facility.
Or we now do it virtually if it's safe to do so, and we try to support their needs of doing that. So that's new because of the pandemic. We have shifted to offering more virtual support. We also have our community response program, and that is where we have several advocates placed within police departments. Dearborn is one of them, and we also have them placed within many courts. So they are immediately available to help whenever somebody's been affected by domestic and sexual assault.
Full-time people?
They are full-time people.
Full-time people.
Yeah, with very close relationships with the law enforcement who are responding to these cases.
And these are people that are trained in counseling primarily, is that correct?
Counseling and also navigating services.
Okay.
Yep, and navigating the law enforcement, or navigating the justice services. So, yep.
Now now the people that are there, you say they're at the police department, could they go to schools in the community they're in?
We have an assault response program, and we also have a community engagement program where we go in and do responding to any sort of active issue that may have just happened, whether it's sexual or physical violence. We also have a speakers bureau which provides training to any entity that needs it. So we go in and we do healthy relationship trainings for high schools. We also go in and do trainings with law enforcement. We go in and do trainings with DHHS and other service providers who interact with the same populations that we do.
That to me, that would be very important training for law enforcement, because you have a lot of young people they've done their job to get, become a policeman.
Yeah.
But that's not included in their training, I don't think,
Yes.
in any significant amount.
Yes. Well, we have been fortunate to partner with so many amazing law enforcement agencies around Wayne County that are very supportive of our work and partner with us very closely.
I'll bet when you give them a call, they can be there in a heartbeat if you need them.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Lori, can you tell us a little bit about how you see things evolving in the future for First Step?
Yeah. So so long as we cannot eliminate violence in the community, which would always be number one, is that we would hope to put ourselves out of business and no longer need our services. Until that happens, though, there is several needs that we continue to recognize and services that we need to provide. First, we are in need of more beds for survivors. So we do have our facility, and it's a wonderful facility, but we are not able to bring in everybody who is seeking a safe place to go. And so we are looking at how to build our capacity and offer more beds for survivors within Wayne County. Also, we want to be able to be less reliant on public funding and be able to be more sustainable in our funding, so we can also be more creative in how we use it, because a lot of our funding is very restricted. And so because of that, we are looking at earned revenue, and nonprofits are allowed to earn revenue, they're just not allowed to pay out profits. They have to reinvest it in the mission.
Yeah.
So one way we've started to do that is through our speaker bureau that I mentioned, where some entities are able to pay for training, and that's allowed us to bring in additional funds. But another way we really want to do it while also providing for the community is a resale shop. And so a resale shop would solve several issues. One, we could allow for there to be a way that survivors who have been through our programs could shop for free at the resale shops. Two, we could offer economic opportunity and jobs through the resale shop. And three, it would be a place where the community could donate goods, but also come and purchase goods, just like any other, resale shop in the community. So that's something we're looking to do in the future.
If you had a client come in and you had a facility like this and they had no job, but they would like to be doing something, you could place them immediately in
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially,
yeah.
And that's also what would you call it? Work training as well.
Yes. Yeah, we feel that it would help to support several, opportunities for the community if we were able to do that. And then another, ongoing, goal of ours is we are in several court systems and police jurisdictions within Wayne County, but we'd really like to see a partnership with every single one of them. And so we really want to grow our community response program so that all law enforcement is working closely with us, and we're working closely with them to support violence in this community.
How many of your workers at First Step are in these facilities as opposed to in your main residential facility?
We have about 10 full-time staff members right now that are placed within court systems or law enforcement within the county. And primarily, we have a very close partnership with our lethality assessment program, where we've actually trained law enforcement to identify how at risk somebody's life is when they've responded to a domestic violence call, and that's in Canton, Taylor, and Dearborn, and that's some of our closest law enforcement partnerships. Those officers are trained to get people on the phone with us immediately, so we can immediately safety plan for them to be out and safe.
Yeah, it's such a sad condition for a family to degenerate to,
Yes.
and yet it's a tough one to resolve.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, and it's really, it takes, you have to have the opportunity to be able to make that call to get the help that you need. And I can't imagine anything worse than finally having the chance to make that call and also be so in need to make that call, and for us to have to tell them that our shelter is full, which is why I want to make sure we have more beds in this county. And we don't just leave somebody hanging. We immediately safety plan and come up with options and plans for them. But a lot of people need a place to go to be safe, and we need to provide more space.
Yeah, I can understand that, and you know, I can feel the urgency you feel to have facilities available
Right.
when they're needed.
Yeah.
And yet it's a problem because the client attendance, it rotates. It's sometime there will be more need, and then sometime the need will subside. It's just an odds thing. You can't you can't really tell how many you're going to need.
Right.
You know, 6 months from now.
Right.
Yeah, you might all of a sudden need 2 or 3 more places.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And well, Lori, it's first step. I'd like to see some of our audience, you know, keep you in mind, and maybe funding always helps.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And first steps, really providing a very, very greatly needed service. You know, and everybody can see it in the news.
Yeah.
What can happen when people aren't, you know, abused to the point of, you know,
Yeah.
well, being killed for that matter.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and on average, we interact with and work with over 7,000 survivors in Wayne County every year. And so, yes, you know, all support is welcome. We also have volunteer opportunities. We always need hands-on support, but, you know, donations are helpful too.
Yeah. When you say 7,000, now these are all clients of, and they may be clients that are not living with you, but
Correct.
you're helping them.
Correct.
And I assume that includes their children.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of times children are very much affected by this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, the sooner you can help support them, the sooner they can heal, and you can prevent long-term trauma for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the kind of what some of the children are exposed to has a great effect on their later life.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Well, Lori, we really appreciate having you here today. I enjoyed chatting with you. Keep First Step in mind. First Step's a wonderful charity in our community, and they all need all of our support. And Lori, thanks again for joining us, and join us on KiwaniTalk again soon.